we're no strangers to moving fast.
And we know how life can have that same quality.
But now
is the time to slow down
and reflect.
The events of recent weeks
highlighted the work we still need to do as a nation to condemn racial inequality and racism.
The deaths of George Floyd,
Breonna Taylor,
Ahmaud Arbery, and countless others in the Black community are heartbreaking.
Are heartbreaking and can no longer be ignored.
process begins with us listening
and learning. Because understanding the problem
Is the first step in fixing it.
We are committed to listening with empathy
and with an open heart to better educate ourselves.
We will use this education to advocate
for change in our nation, our communities,
and most importantly, in our own homes.
even after the headlines go away.
All of our voices, they make a difference.
No matter how big or how small.
It is all of our responsibility
to no longer be silent.
To no longer be silent.
We just can't stay silent.
We have a long road ahead of us.
But let's commit to make that journey together.
Together.
Our differences should not divide us.
It is our love for all mankind
that will unite us
as we work together
to make real change.
As we work together to make real change.
I just finished recording, and I saw on Twitter that Bubba Wallace had a problem after the race, either overheating or something. So just wanted to reiterate, hopefully Bubba's okay. Yeah, that's tough. It's a hot 500 miles, and that race car, it's ridiculous, man. It's testing. It's absolutely physically grueling. So hopefully Bubba's okay. And let's get on. I hate to say this, but it might be time to repave Atlanta, and that hurts my heart saying that. If there's a way to repave it and not make it as smooth as a baby's butt, or paint or repave it like a highway, pretty much, keep some character in the track, that would be nice. But I think we're approaching that time. So if you guys watched the race today, 500 miles at Atlanta, I didn't have the greatest feeling coming into this race because I knew intermediate track. One where it doesn't really fit this package that well because you can't hold it full throttle. You can't even hold it nearly as much throttle as you'd want with this package. I had a feeling it wasn't going to be the best race. Also, just because of the length of the race, very, very long. And I think we could all agree, maybe not all. If you're a Kevin Harvick fan, you probably liked it. But I think we could mostly agree that race was not very entertaining. And again, it happens. It's normal for to have a great race like Bristol. Short track, awesome, and then go to an intermediate track, and yeah. And then you're going to have a lot of fans attack the package. You're going to have a lot of fans blame NASCAR for that. At a certain point, the reason why I'm not attacking the package is, guys, look at the last... When was the last time we had a great Atlanta race? I'm being honest. When was the last time we had a great Atlanta race? Because I'm trying to think in my memory, and I can't really think one. This is with... Yes, the 750 with low downforce package, 750 with high downforce, 550. I'm thinking of all those races, and a lot of them, first of all, they just don't come to my mind because I just don't remember them. And I can't think of an Atlanta race that really stood out to me. I think part of that, it's not all of it, but part of it, because there's a lot of contributing factors, but part of it is the track is so old now and so abrasive that it is insanely fun to drive. But with this package, it's just not a good fit at all. But also, it's just it seems like the track now really spreads the cars out a lot, no matter what package you use. And Atlanta used to have this rubber band effect where the cars would always come back together, right? And it doesn't seem like it has that. I think as the track has gotten older throughout the years, certain lines have become very common. For example, the Harvicking line, especially through 3 and 4. You kind of want to run the bottom through 3 and 4. Yes, you can run the middle. Yes, you can run the top. But if you want to be up front, you want to be fast, you want to run the bottom 3 and 4. I feel like the way the track is just aged, it's aged in a way. I just think sometimes you're going too far into how abrasive you want to make the track. I have the same feelings about Auto Club. I think a track like Chicagoland is in a really nice state right now, but in a few years' time, maybe that'll have to be repaved too. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I didn't think the race today was all that great. It's not just the package's fault. It's not just the track's. It's no one's fault really. It's just the race wasn't great. It's 3 out of 10, 2 out of 10. Oh, it was a bad race. I would like to talk about the race, but I mean, I can't think of any plot points. I mean, you had the main the return of the big three of Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., and Kyle Busch. They ended up finishing 1, 2, 3. So that was interesting to see because we haven't seen JGR be that good. So JGR came back in this race and they ran very well. And other than that, I mean, I'm trying to think of plot points. I mean, other than Bowyer's right rear tire because of the setup they were using, Bowyer's right rear tire kept shredding. I can't think of anything. The race was very standard. There were good battles out on track. It's just like the way Atlanta has aged. When you run the bottom, you kind of don't have to come up off the bottom. You just run the bottom, and then someone on the top runs the top, and then they're just really far apart. And I don't know. I don't know if we had a different package. I think the race would be a little bit better, but I don't know if it would really give us an amazing race. Like Chicagoland can give you amazing races. 2018 was a recent example. And I think just the age that Chicagoland is aged right now, the age that's at, it's a really nice mix of what that racetrack is. I think Auto Club in Atlanta are to that point where you try to push it for so long, right? And it's just like, yes, it's fun to drive, but from a racing perspective now, it's so abrasive, so old. It wears the tires out so much that maybe it hurts the racing a little bit. I don't know. I'm just, that's me speculating. Comment down below what you guys think. That's just my opinion. I think it might be time to repave it. I would do it for next season. I would definitely repave it. Just in a way where it don't make it into a kind of something like what some tracks have been repaved recently, like Michigan or I think Kansas had a certain repave job where the tracks are just so smooth. It's honestly ridiculous. If there's a way to keep some character in the track, I would say do that. Another thing I want to talk about in this video is the length of the race. Now, this is still a very divisive topic. Not divisive. What is it? Divisive. Divisive. No, it's a very divisive topic. There we go. I got my English right. Now, in my opinion, when I saw immediately this race was 500 miles, I was thinking to myself, Atlanta, 30-second lap times, 500 miles. Your normal mile-and-a-half track. That's what normal, back in the day, that was normal. Texas, Atlanta, Chicago, Kansas, Charlotte, 500 miles. You run it 500 miles every single time. Mile and a half, 500 miles. And you just kind of dealt with it. Some races were good, some races weren't. But I think now, just the year is 2020, everything we get, and this has really not much to do with NASCAR. It's more to do with society. Everything we do now, today, everything we get, in terms of information, in terms of access, is so insanely fast. The access we have to the internet, the access we have to just anything that we want to do is so incredibly quick that I think it's just overall as a species, as a population, as a society, that our attention spans are a little bit shorter and we have more things to do, more things to accomplish in the span of a day or in the span of an afternoon than we do to sit on a couch and watch racing for almost 4 hours. Now, the counter argument is you could put a race on at Martinsville and that race could last 4 hours and every fan would say that race was fantastic even though it lasted 4 hours because it's a short track and you have a lot of action at that track. I have to reiterate, the Daytona 500, the Coke 600, Brickyard 400, Southern 500, anything that's 500 miles that's tradition, don't change. Keep it that way. I think that would actually, shortening a lot of the races would help give those races more prestige. Because they're just a little bit longer. But listen, guys, today you don't see the endurance issues anymore. In an endurance race, you have a lot of engine failures or mechanical failures, stuff like that. And in NASCAR today, the cars are so well built. This is just technology. You don't really see that anymore. That's not really a part of the race. You don't really have to worry about blown engines. Don't have to, worry about those kind of things. They can still happen, but not nearly as frequently as they do. So you take their endurance side out of things. And you have these intermediate races, which are a lot of 500 miles. And why do they have to be 500 miles? Do you understand? All the action can be done in 300 miles. In honesty, it all could be done in 300 miles. And a 300-mile race is, I think, a little over 2 hours. It could be 2 hours on the mark or a little over 2 hours. I look at F1 a lot for this because F1 races, I always love the length of an F1 race because I feel like you get everything that needs to happen, and it's even some race times in a boring F1 race. F1 can have a lot of boring races. Even F1 fans will tell you that. F1 fans can have a lot of boring races, but the fact that it could kind of end kind of quickly, like an hour and a half or an hour 45 minutes, it doesn't leave a rotten taste in your mouth as long as this race, which lasted almost, I think it was 3.5 hours. You know, with more cautions, this race didn't have a lot of cautions, so with more cautions a little bit, could easily hit 4, and it becomes so long that you're watching for so long, and a lot of people just turn it off, that when you watch it for that entire time, it just leaves a rotten taste in your mouth. I think part of that is just, it's so long. You know, so something that could have been 2 hours ended up going 4 hours, and then you start thinking to yourself, did I have to watch all of that? And I think just in today's world, it would be better to have more quality instead of quantity. Instead of making these races, you know, stay 500 miles, I like the idea of 300-mile races. I think in this year specifically, with everything going on, they could test it a little bit more in making 300-mile races. You could debate whether you want to put that on a Wednesday night or what, but making it a 300-mile race, I think, is a right distance. It's a little bit over 2 hours, depending on the track, and you know, if you want to keep the short track races 500, I'm okay with that. If you want to keep short track races that long, that's okay too. But I just think even in short track races, you'll just see the intensity pick up more because you don't have as much time, you know, in the race. You can't save your stuff. You just got to go from the start. And I think it's very important to do that. Now, on a more positive note, what's coming up Wednesday night, I have waited for this race for years. I've waited for a primetime night Martinsville race for as long as I can remember. Honestly, probably over a decade. I've wanted a night race at Martinsville ever since I think I played it in like Chase with the Cup 2005, where you could race it at night. Yeah, that's been in my mind, and that's coming up on Wednesday. We're gonna have a prime time Martinsville night race, which excites me so much. I don't know if that race is 500 miles or not. I think it is 500 miles. I'm not sure. I don't know if they made that 300 miles, you know, because sometimes they want to make it a 300 miles on the weekdays. I think it's 500 miles, but to me it doesn't matter because that race, I already know before I even watch the race. I know it's going to be a great race. I know it will. I don't have to even think about it not being a great race. It's the best racetrack in NASCAR, and it's just going to be wonderful. So I'm super excited for that. And then after that, we also have a couple of great races. I think Talladega's coming up, Homestead's coming up. And so I'm very excited for what is coming up onto the schedule. But today's race, man, it's just a dud. It is such a forgettable race. Like, you even think about when at the end of the season, you're going to think back of all the races, and this one just won't come to your mind. You just won't think of it. It's so much of a dud race. And, you know, it actually kind of frustrates me that guys like Harvick, Truex, you know, they often win boring races. I don't know why. They never win the great race. I know Truex won one of the great Martinsville races. But every time Harvick and Truex wins a race, it's not like a fantastic race. And then you see people don't like it, and it makes you think, oh, they just hate Harvick or Truex. No, like, honestly, if it's a great race, I don't care who wins. But for them, for some reason, Harvick and Truex, they don't win the great races, like the entertaining races. It's not even their fault, you know? They could dominate, but it's not their fault. It's just they tend to win a lot of races. Hey, they win a lot of races, by the way. They win a lot, but they're never that entertaining. That's pretty much it for a very dull Sunday. You know, I think it's time to repave Atlanta. Let me know what you guys think about that. If there is a way to repave it where it doesn't turn into a full throttle track, that would be very nice. I don't know if it's possible, but, you know, that'd be something that I would appreciate. However, you know, Atlanta in its day, back in the day, was an insanely fast racetrack. So now with the cars having much less horsepower, you would think, you know, no matter how you repave it, it would end up being a full throttle racetrack. So it's a very difficult decision what to do with that track. I don't think it's had a great race in a few years, you know, so it's been tough. We'll see where that goes. But the next 3 races are hopefully Homestead's going to be great, the package. Next 3 races I think are going to be really great. Martinsville, Talladega, Homestead. And we'll see how that goes before we hit the summer stretch. And the summer stretch is let's just not talk about the summer stretch races. When I hear 2 races at Pocono and Indianapolis and Kentucky, literally 4 races in a row, some of the worst racetracks on the circuit, I want to cry. But Martinsville's up next. So, guys, if you like the video, make sure you hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Just forget about this one, and let's move on. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you're not already. I will see you guys later. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Peace out.